seeking appointments at the state level.
It can be a little daunting trying to traverse the different areas of city offices.
The workshop is the first by Garcetti's office to focus on women who want to run for public office. In the last 10 years, Garcetti says, he's seen the number of women in public office drop. Even the progressive LA City Council currently has only one female council member, and no women have yet applied for Garcetti's seat. He will be leaving office due to term limits.
There will be probably a dozen people that run so far of the 10 or so that have taken out papers, and there's some great men. They're all men. There's not one single woman. So I'm hoping to make sure that there are women at the table. If you don't have women at the table, you're missing a big part of the conversation.
We do a lot of what I call kind of confidence-building exercises.
Participants got to meet with a top female government leader. Rosario Marin served as U.S. Treasurer under President George Bush. Because her son Eric has Down syndrome, she has also served on governors' boards and commissions, championing the rights of those with disabilities.
You know, I never thought, I never worked to have all of this happen. But I know what I had in my heart was a strong desire to serve. Eric's birth gave me a mission.
So ladies, if you've got a mission and a desire to serve, the field's wide open. Starting with that LA City Council seat Mr. Garcetti is leaving. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Several dozen women and even a few men attended the workshop. Well, turning to kids and health, when it comes to smoking, kids can be impressionable, but a new anti-smoking program is giving the control back to the kids themselves. Councilmember Richard Alarcon chose the Discovery Charter Preparatory in Pacoima to announce the launch of a major tobacco prevention and control program for the Northeast San Fernando Valley. It's students like the ones at this high school the councilmember wants to protect.
Hi, I'm Eric Roscoe, and I'm proud to be tobacco-free. I have great teachers and loving parents, so why smoke tobacco? So choosing to be tobacco-free was an easy choice to make. But for some of my friends, it's not so easy not to smoke tobacco. And I'm here to say that it is easy to not smoke tobacco. Just say no.
In addition to saying no, students are getting involved in another way, helping to crack down on the illegal sale of tobacco products to minors. Under the Tobacco Prevention and Control Program, young participants will, in essence, be working undercover, patronizing all 180 stores in Alarcon's Council District 7 that are permitted to sell tobacco products.
I want to make it very clear, they are not going to purchase tobacco. We are not going to have them commit an illegal act in order to prove these retailers wrong.
What the students will do is try to buy cigarettes, short of actually making the purchase. The students will then document each vendor's willingness to sell to minors and hand that information over to police and the city attorney's office.
We have prosecuted ice cream vendors, especially those in and around schools, for selling illegally and selling black market products.
The latest statistics show that 9.1% of permitted retailers in Council District 7 illegally sold tobacco products to minors in 2010. The illegal sales rate of tobacco stands at 17.3% for all of Los Angeles, both higher than the state average of 7.7%.
About 1 in 5 high school students grades 9 to 12 are current smokers.
While no one program can solve the teen smoking problem, there is hope that this program's secret weapon, the teens themselves, will work where others have failed.
It is easy to walk away from tobacco. It is easy to say no. It's your choice and it's your life and it's your body.
The program is funded through a $100,000 grant from the Lopez Canyon Trust Fund. The latest program caught in the LA Unified School District's budget crosshairs is adult education. Gil Reyes takes a look at the possible repercussions of shutting down adult ed.
A rally supporting adult education. Some 300,000 local students depend on these classes.
They really would have nowhere else to go. I mean, the community colleges are facing severe cutbacks as well.
Adult schools like this one offer GED courses for high school dropouts. Also, English language courses popular among LA's immigrants.
But it also helps adults who have maybe lost their job and need new job skills in order to get a new job in this economy.
Belmont High School is one of 30 campuses at LAUSD supporting adult education, a program that could be cut significantly, if not altogether, unless new streams of revenue come in.
Councilmember Jan Perry has authored a resolution to save adult education from LA Unified's budget acts, but this mostly relies on other factors. Money from the state is one, also a proposed annual parcel tax on all property within the district. Voters will decide in November. Councilmember Eric Garcetti instead favors pension reform at LA Unified to cut costs.
It is a critical moment for us to make sure that we all tighten our belts. That might mean contributing a little bit more as public employees to our pensions. That might mean putting a little bit more for health care to protect those services. But one thing that is non-negotiable is completely cutting out adult education.
Councilmember Richard Alarcon says many adult ed students are actually teenagers. Single parents with tight schedules unable to enroll in traditional high school.
We already have incredibly high rates of dropout in LAUSD. We don't need to encourage that.
Meantime, teacher Mark Wutschke has already received his layoff notice.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. I have no idea.
In fact, notice is given to every LA adult ed teacher. They may or may not be back in the fall. Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
LA Unified faces a $560 million budget deficit. Slashing adult ed could save the district $140 million. Female fire chiefs honored, a traffic light 30 years in the making, and the world's most famous movie palace celebrates a milestone. These stories and more in City Beat. Councilmembers Jan Perry and Bernard Parks recently honored several female fire chiefs for helping to break through the glass ceiling in a traditionally male-dominated field.
It was their work that put them in the positions that they needed to be in so that we could promote them, so we could pick the best and the brightest and elevate them to positions where they can take this department where we need to go.
It has been a long struggle, not just in the Los Angeles Fire Department, but in the fire service nationally, to make sure that women are recognized for their contributions, to make sure that everyone understands that women provide outstanding performances, that they are equal in every way to their male counterparts.
There are now around 100 women holding uniformed positions in the LA Fire Department. Boyle Heights residents finally got the traffic light at the busy intersection of Cesar Chavez Avenue and Fresno Street community members have been asking for since the 1970s. The effort initially went nowhere, but through the recent advocacy by the community, Councilmember Jose Huizar worked with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation to install the traffic signal near Malabar Elementary. LADOT initially approved a warning device crosswalk, but it was never installed due to budget cuts. But the full traffic signal was eventually approved using $250,000 in federal funds. The Lakers' most recent Hall of Famer, Jamal Wilkes, was honored in LA City Council chambers for his contributions to the sport of basketball. Wilkes, who began his basketball career at UCLA, was an essential member of the Los Angeles Lakers that captured 3 championship titles in the early 1980s.
What comes to mind immediately is the championship parades here at City Hall back in the early 80s. Those were really over the top.
Today, Wilkes serves as a motivational speaker for national organizations and Fortune 500 companies.
He is a member of the Boys and Girls Club of America National Hall of Fame, a co-founder of the Jamal Wilkes UCLA Unicamp Golf Tournament.
Wilkes will be inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in September. The most famous movie palace in the world, Grauman's Chinese Theater, is 85 years old. To celebrate the milestone, Councilmember Tom LaBonge attended a ribbon cutting for the new Grauman's Gallery, open free to the public, featuring original prints of the iconic handprint ceremonies with Hollywood notables of the past and present, from Marilyn Monroe to Cary Grant to Tom Cruise. A time capsule was also dedicated to be opened 85 years from now. An event that was so successful last year returned to the LA Convention Center this year to make history again. We're talking about the Spanish language book fair that drew an estimated 75 to 100,000 people over a 3-day period. Cindy San Luis takes us to Leia LA, or Read LA.
We're trying to find books in Spanish to read to our son.
And the Los Angeles Convention Center was just the right place to come for that. The site of Leia LA or Read LA event, the city's free 3-day Spanish language book fair. Leia LA is organized by the University of Guadalajara to extend its arts and culture outreach programs to the Latino community in Los Angeles.
It's very hard to find good literature here in the U.S. that is written by Spanish-speaking authors, so we decided to go to import.
Mexico, Argentina, and Spain are just some of the countries the books come from, with over 100 publishers showcasing their best Spanish-language fiction and nonfiction.
There's a lot of different books, a lot of really good quality books.
Hello! We're very passionate about helping families and kids to find what we need. So we not only sell to parents, but we also send to librarians. So if you don't have enough money to buy some books, you go to the library and you enjoy them.
Parents at the event were eager to promote reading to their children.
It's a connection, I guess, and knowing that he's listening and learning new stories, adventures.
He loves to look at books. He doesn't read yet, but he loves to act like he's reading, and he just loves story time.
Finding the time to go to the library is the best investment you can do in your kid for Spanish language and English.
And it's hoped that events like this will further expose Californians to the joys of reading in any language. I'm Cindy San Luis for LA This Week.
Leia LA, which the Los Angeles Public Library co-sponsored, is modeled after the University of Guadalajara's popular and prestigious Guadalajara International Book Fair, Latin America's largest annual cultural event held in Mexico each November. To learn more about Leia LA, visit leiala.com. We want to take some time now to tell you about a new series premiere here at LA City View Channel 35. As Rich Samuels tells us, it's a reality show competition for seniors that focuses on getting and staying fit.
Produced as a co-production between the City of Los Angeles Department of Aging and Dr. Scott Kaiser, a family physician at UCLA specializing in geriatric medicine, On the Move is designed to motivate seniors to do just that.
We know that exercise, regular physical activity is a critical part of healthy aging. We know that it can be good for your overall physical health, mental health, well-being, quality of life, and can help with maintaining independence.
On the Move focuses on 2 teams of 6 contestants in a weekly competition to get active. They'll also keep track of their activity during the week as well, and win extra points for just keeping fit.
And we're hoping that their working on the move, their experience using these programs that are available, will inspire our viewers to get on the move as well. So we're hoping we can really spark a change, starting with our community and moving outward, to really get people excited about getting out there and getting active.
Come on, here we go.
According to the contestants themselves, On the Move seems to be achieving its goal.
On the Move has really changed my life. I'm now thinking about my cholesterol, my overall health. Every day I give myself a goal and I accomplish it or I exceed the goal.
I'm like bursting out, feeling so good. And I think that's because of this show, because I've been on the move.
Co-host Paul Peterson, who also hosts LA City View's Aging Well in LA, put it this way.
People, when they watch On the Move, will get the idea that they're really looking at themselves. If you're in your mid-60s and haven't been active for 10 years or so, get motivated, get up. It won't hurt you. Matter of fact, you'll feel a lot better.
This is Rich Samuels for LA This Week.
Contestants were chosen for On the Move after extensive physical and psychological testing. Again, On the Move premieres here on Channel 35 starting July 7th at 8:30 p.m. To find out more, go to otmtv.com. And speaking of being on the move, in this week's list of things to do, there's a walk for Alzheimer's, an evening of jazz theater, and a vintage car show. If jazz on a Saturday night fits the bill, head on over to the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center on Saturday, June 9th at 8 p.m. for Portraiture Stories in Jazz. The award-winning Jazz Antiqua Dance Ensemble joins Brian Swartz and the New Sextet for an evocative evening of jazz theater. The Nate Holden Performing Arts Center is located at 4718 West Washington Boulevard. The event is presented in association with Ebony Repertory Theater. More info can be found at ebonyrep.org. Also on Saturday, June 9th, the Vintage Automobile and Classic Car Show at the Heritage Square Museum is taking place from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. You'll enjoy an up-close look at rare and beautifully crafted automobiles over a 40-year time span, from the Model T to the 1950s hot rods, as well as some vintage farm equipment. Visitors will choose the car they consider the best in show. The event is free for museum members and $10 for the general public. The museum is located at 3800 Homer Street. Go to heritagesquare.org for details. And the second annual Walk to End Alzheimer's in the San Fernando Valley takes place Sunday, June 10th, starting at Woodley Park, which is located at 6350 Woodley Avenue in Van Nuys. On-site registration starts at 7 a.m. with the opening ceremony at 8:30 and the walk at 9. The 5K walk will also include musical entertainment, awards, and a family festival. To register, start a team, donate, sponsor, or volunteer. Contact the Alzheimer's Association at alz.org/SoCal. And remember, you can find this information on our Facebook page. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. And that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We leave you now with the 5K run in Canoga Park that took place prior to the Memorial Day parade. See you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Job to teach you the safe way to ride a bike. You should always wear a helmet just in case you fall. Ride on the sidewalk. It's safer than the street. Okay. When crossing a driveway, stop your bike and look both ways. Like this? That's good. And obey all traffic laws. Traffic laws? Yep. Like stopping at stop signs and walking your bike across the street. Boy, I'm glad you're my big brother. I know.
Ride right. Stop at the light. Watch the road.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 6th. I want to welcome all of you to your Los Angeles City Council meeting. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. and the public is welcome. Mr. Clerk, I do believe we have a quorum. Would you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Buscaino, Cardenas, Englander, Garcetti, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zion, Wesson. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Alarcon moves, Mr. Parks seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Englander moves, Mr. Weezer seconds. And where would that bring us to at this point?
Mr. President, would you like to run through the agenda?
Yes, I would. So if I could direct members your attention to the agenda. If we could go through the first section, the first 7 items.
Very good, sir. Items 1 through 7 are items for which public hearings have been held. A Budget and Finance Committee report for item 3 has been circulated and is now before Council for its consideration.
Okay, specials, members? Specials? In fact, what we'll do, let's take number 1. I think we may ultimately continue item 1, so let's hold it until we discuss what we're going to do with that. And Mr. Clerk, what items? I missed something that you said about continuing an item, or what you said about item 3.
No, sir. Item 3, only that the Budget and Finance Committee report has been circulated and is now before Council for its consideration.
Okay, so on the remaining items, let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, let's move to items, Mr. Clerk, 8 through 15.
Very good, sir. Before doing so, sir, item 2 was an ordinance. If, in fact, Council does not reconsider that matter later, it will go over 1 week for a second read.
We will reconsider it when we have 12 members. Mr. Labange.
Request of Mr. Krikorian, item 8 be continued till Friday.
Item 8?
Yes.
Okay, without...
The commissioner is not here.
Okay, without objection. Well, you know, Mr. Labange, look, why don't we hold item 8 for right now?
Okay.
Friday, we will be in the Valley. I don't know where the commissioner lives. You may want to continue this until...
Yeah, I'm talking to staff of Mr. Krikorian. It's not a problem, but whatever the president decides.
Okay, so then without objection, item 8 will be continued until this Friday. And that date, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, Friday is June 8.
Okay, without objection. Specials members. Mr. Englander?
Just 4 and 5 forthwith, please.
4, okay, on 4 and 5 forthwith. Okay, members, we're 8 through 15.
And Mr. President, 8 through 15 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for
consideration. Okay, without objection.
Very good.
Do we have cards?
Only on item 8, sir.
Okay, so on the remainder, we're prepared to vote. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Mr. Clerk, that brings us where?
Mr. President, that brings us to items 16 through 19. They're items scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold them on the desk?
Yes, until I have a discussion with our city attorney. So on those items, let's hold them.
Very good. On the continuation agenda, item 20 is the mayor's veto message. 10 votes are required to override.
Let's continue that item till Friday. Or is it an item, Mr. City Attorney, that if action is taken today, or do I need to continue it to Friday in order?
The time limit is actually tomorrow. So
continue it till Friday. That brings us to what, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, that brings us to item 21. It's an item for which public hearing has been held.
Okay, items 21. Member, any specials? Mr. Garcetti?
Call it special, please.
Okay, Mr. Garcetti wants to hold item 21. So that brings us where, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, that brings us back to presentations, item called special, or public comment for items not on council's agenda.
Okay, I'd like to call on Councilmember Labange and Mr. Garcetti for a brief introduction.
We got some future leaders of Los Angeles right here.
William.
This is William and
Joshua.
and
Kira.
And where are you from?
Temple Israel of Hollywood.
All right,
Temple
it's the third grade class of Temple Israel of Hollywood. If you guys want to all stand up.
Be recognized.
And our teachers and our parents.
Let's give them a round of applause.
And we'll make sure we got the camera shot. Wave to the camera. You can't see it, but it's that one up there. And then we'll get you a picture. And you guys can come here anytime and speak from this podium, just like members of the public can. So welcome. It's great to have you here. Mr. Labange's district, my mother's old temple.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's have a big hand for Temple Israel Hollywood.
All right.
Say hi to Rabbi John. Here we go.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Ms. Perry, are you ready with your presentation?
All right, John.
Ms. Perry, are you ready with your presentation? Now, we'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Perry for a presentation.
I would like to welcome Dr. Eugenia Singolani, Nicole Jones, Jacqueline Hernandez, Eric Batch, and Christine Kelly to the podium. Okay, she's coming up? Okay, great. All right. It's a pleasure to welcome representatives from the American Heart Association for this very special presentation. Heart disease affects men, women, and children of every age and background in the United States. Over 383,000 cases of sudden cardiac arrest occur every year. Only 41% of these out-of-hospital cardiac arrest victims are treated by bystander CPR, and roughly 89% of these victims die before being discharged from a hospital. The prompt delivery of CPR oftentimes doubles the chances of survival of those who suffer sudden cardiac arrest. And the use of an automatic external defibrillator, when used immediately, can help the heart resume a normal, effective rhythm. For every minute without bystander CPR, the survival of sudden cardiac arrests decreases by 7 to 10%. A public trained in the use of AEDs and the effective use of CPR can make the difference in the lives of many people who suffer from debilitating cardiac events. The American Heart Association, the American Red Cross, and the National Safety Council have joined forces to prepare a public awareness and training program on CPR and AED use. Together, they are spreading the message that CPR training can save lives. So it's a pleasure to kick off CPR Awareness Week in the city of Los Angeles. And now I would like to invite Dr. Eugenia Singolani, who is a doctor at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, to talk about the campaign.
Thank you.
Are you Singolani?
Yes.
Did I pronounce your name right?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the City Council members, Council Member Sean Perry, Mayor, and American Heart Association, and Cedars-Sinai Heart Institute. I also want to thank everyone in this room because we can all make an important change. Cardiac arrest is the leading cause of mortality in the United States, and when someone experiences a cardiac arrest, survival depends on receiving prompt and immediate attention in the field. Unfortunately, only 1/3 of those who experience a cardiac arrest at home, public location, or at work get that type of help. That's mainly because too few of us know how to perform CPR. We are living exciting times in medicine and cardiology with the development of new technologies and techniques to help our patients with heart disease. But to be able to do that, we should act fast when cardiac arrest happens in the field. When someone collapses at school, work, or in the public setting, quickly calling 911 and starting hands-only CPR can be life-saving. Prompt support until an ambulance arrives can make a huge difference between life and death, and all it takes is our own hands. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Did you want to say a few words? Okay, say your name.
Hello, Jacqueline Hernandez, American Heart Association. I'd just like to extend gratitude to Councilmember Perry for all the work she does with the American Heart Association and for bringing awareness to this really important life-saving measure. So thank you very much, District 9 and Los Angeles City Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Ms. Perry, Mr. Reyes would like to say a few words.
First, I want to rise and thank Councilman Perry and our guests for the work they do. The levels of high blood pressure, the issues of diet are profound in our districts, especially in the communities that don't have as many resources as many other areas. So I thank you for your work and appreciate your hard effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them another round of applause. Thank you for all of the good work that you're doing trying to save our lives. Mr. Clerk, where does that take this council to at this time? General public comment if we choose?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Donald Kronos, Ryan Rice, Daniel Garcia, please come forward, the three of you. We've called for three of you. Please come forward. Okay, go on, sir.
Hi, my name is Donald Kronos. Does anybody here recognize me?
Yeah, you've been here before.
Okay. Well, I tried to make a point last time I was here of the fact that there are some rather emotional issues going on. I was hoping a few people had actually remembered that I tried to make that point. Judging by what I see being proposed today, doesn't look like it. We've got a lot of things that need to be fixed around here. We've got a lot of things, not just here in Los Angeles, worldwide, we've got a lot of things that really need to be fixed. These awareness movements that are happening all over the planet are happening for a reason. It's because the governments are ignoring the people. And I don't mean this to insult, the people that are in government. I do believe, honestly, as individuals, they're doing what they can. Well, some of them anyway, and I can't speak for everyone, but I really think it's important to start looking at why the people are upset about the way things are, and where the imbalance is. I mean, take for example the fact that the laws. Just the idea of fines. It's a completely unfair concept. The whole idea that somebody who's got, $10 to his name gets the same fine as somebody who's got $1 billion for breaking the same law. One person, it basically takes their already destroyed life and destroys it even worse. The other one's like, here, have a piece of paper with my signature on it. No big deal. The fact that drinking fountains were taken out of Pershing Square when they found out that homeless people were using them to bathe. Hey, why didn't they just put up showers somewhere? A pipe with a little water coming out of it and a partition wall somewhere. I mean, obviously people need to get cleaned up. You don't take away a source of water because somebody needs to get clean. This is just about, being considerate of each other, recognizing that we are a society of human beings. We need to start acting like humanity. Please. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for adjusting your calendar and coming down here to testify. Ryan Rice, followed by Daniel Garcia, followed by Henry Marine.
I'm going to be speaking on number one, as well. But just as far as general comment goes, I just want to know if anyone just witnessed those students come in here and those two politicians literally drag them up here for a photo opportunity. That was really disgusting. And it really makes me sad as well that all the students are now gone when we're actually going to be talking about issues. I don't know. That was really gross.
It's my understanding that the teachers from the school wanted to have the children introduced. Anyway, Mr. Garcia, good to see you.
Good morning, City Council, members of the council. I am Daniel Garcia, and my blog is www.theadvocatepage.com, where I blog about what needs to be done in the city as far as housing, transportation, and sales. One of the things I want to emphasize here, I know it will sound a rhetoric argument again, but it's very important because the city needs to have accessible and affordable housing. Without that, you will not get rid of the homeless. Without that, you will not get rid of the people with disabilities outside the street. We need accessible and affordable housing. And we need now, not 10 years from along the road. We need now. And that's the important part of the city council. You got the power to make the scene move on easily, smoother, and more effective. Please allow more affordable and accessible housing now. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Garcia. Henry Marine, followed by Armanek Norajanian. And I'm going to need some help here, folks. I can't figure this next card out. It looks like it's a WCYL. And maybe the last name is Caros. But anyway, Mr. Marine.
Yes, these here are trust records from the Southern California Pipe Trades Trust listing the city of Los Angeles as private sector employer 9540, and the city of, the Housing Authority has employer code 1432. And as you see, 1432 is a lot lower than 9540, so the Housing Authority has been actively involved in providing public funds to Union Trust by accident or due to mistakes or misunderstandings for a lot longer than the city has. And as in Chapter 108 of the HACLA rule, I brought it to your attention that the per diem rate and union benefits is only for work anticipated to be 90 work days or less, 60 work days or less, which is a period of 90 days. But it appears there's a lot of transactions going on between multi-third parties. As you know, administrators are third parties handling the funds and affairs of the people of the city of Los Angeles and paying workers in the city of Los Angeles, and nobody's listening. As normal. And due to the lack, and on October 26th, everything that you presumed the CAO could do for union contractors, construction work, you could do for the firemen, you found out it was illegal. Under this simple, she didn't go into a lot of details. She just simply said, under rules of parity, if you take something away in the beginning, you got to pay for it in the end. You can't be mixing, commingling. The steps of money laundering is placement, stacking, and integration.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Norajanian, before you start speaking, Members, we do have 12 members. So at this point in time, Mr. Clerk, I want to quickly move to item 2. We need to vote on reconsideration first. So on reconsideration, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we will vote on the item. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Mr. Norjanian.
Yeah. Good morning, respectable City Council members. Good morning, fellow Angelinos. My name is Armenak Nurjan, and I'm the most progressive and liberal Democrat in Los Angeles area, I believe. I ran for the seat of California State Assembly from South Central Los Angeles, 59th Assembly District. And I hope that most of black and Hispanic voters voted for me because as I'm most progressive and most liberal candidate of all, most incorruptible of all. And I hope that, progressive thinking will prevail in this whole of city government as well. Actually, I will ask city council members to raise taxes against wealthy homeowners and all producing manufacturers 50% in order to fight budget deficit and avoid costly layoffs. But you city council members voted for proposition 14 yesterday, voted for layoffs and work hour reductions unanimously at that. So I believe that progressive thinking didn't work, in that in terms of collecting taxes, raising revenue, or avoiding layoffs, and ended up in actually very costly layoffs and work hour reductions. Which is not supposed to be. And also, I ask city council members to introduce hardcore ban against so-called medical marijuana dispensaries, as 56% of California voters rejected Proposition 19, rejected legalization of marijuana, and those so-called medical marijuana dispensaries, they rip off substance abusers, charge them gross sum of the money, and make Angelinos homeless and destitute.
Okay, good to see you, sir. Again, I'm looking for, I cannot pronounce the name. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but the initials are WCYL. Okay, then Arnold Sachs. And your name?
Lucille Caruso.
Is that what?
Yes, sloppily written.
Okay, well, you're up. Followed by Arnold Sachs, followed by Mervyn Evans. Please go ahead, Ms. Caruso.
Oftentimes you heard me come here talk about women's rights in a book that I had and about 40 years of all this. And what I wanted to know about same-sex marriage was about the term limit news that they have now. And they talk about people who've been in office a long time. And since the women's rights have been so long, I don't understand why same-sex marriage hasn't been passed. And that, I was watching this Hoffa movie with Jack Nicholson, and he said the president doesn't make the laws, he has to abide by them. So why do these people always ask the president what he's going to do? I don't even know how that really works, to vote on that. But I think a lot of it has to do with segregation. I mean, they always have we're this group of people, rather than all the time people getting used to looking at couples. A lot of times you heard me say, I'm not used to seeing a man with makeup. Of course, I'm in the arts and entertainment industry. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Arnold Sachs, followed by Mervyn Evans, followed by Dowhouse Dude.
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Arnold Sachs. I mentioned last week you had an item on your agenda regarding the fire department, and I told you I had an article. Here it is from Friday, May 18th at the LA Times. Dispatch lag shows LAFD call response. It shows two graphs. It shows emergency calls, percentage of medical 911 calls dispatched within 60 seconds of receipt by LAFD. And in 2007, the number was 38.5%. In 2010, when you decided to cut the fire department, the number had dropped to 15.3%. The same thing, response times from the time fire department answers a medical 911 call to dispatch the unit. In 2007, the time was 1 minute 23 seconds. In 2010, it was 1 minute and 42 seconds. So it rose, and yet you cut funding for the fire department. Don't you have these things available to you when you're making decisions? It's good to see everybody engaged in conversation. And how about AEG backstabbing the people that supported them to help them get over the environmental impact reviews and settle the differences in court in 60 days or 90 days instead of allowing people to have a full opportunity to present their disputes in court. Now they've jacked those people by giving them a phony environmental impact report in the first place. And here's an interesting story. It was in the Downtown News 5/28/12. Notice of public hearing by the CRA/LA, a designated local authority successor agency to the Community Redevelopment Agency. How could that agency be the successor when it existed in December? It's amazing how you thieves steal money.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Mr.
your
Sachs.
attention.
Mr. Sachs, thank you. Mr. Evans, followed by Dowhouse. Dude, Mervin, good to see you again, sir.
You know, it's even better since yesterday now, isn't it? Mr. President, this state needs high-speed rail. We need to be able to connect Los Angeles to Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego, wherever. Los Angeles should be the starting point of any high-speed rail construction in this state. It is time to put California on a track to economic prosperity and fiscal accountability. We need to focus on economic development that will provide jobs and resources for our citizens. I want to thank the good 25% of the people who voted for me last night. I'm just overjoyed with that. Now we have to get to November. Please visit mervinevans.com. And once again, President Wesson, I want to thank you for your outstanding leadership.
Thank you, Mervin. Good to see you. Always a pleasure. Dowhouse Dude, followed by Tom. Tom Walsh, come forward, followed by Norma Bravila. Go on, Mr. Dude.
Yes, maybe if I talk with a French accent, I will be listened a little better. Senor Labonche, you said you're going to help me if I don't tell the kids to go to Skid Row, and you want to let the kids grow up before you let them know there is a Skid Row, right? No, what I'm telling you now, tell everybody reality. We are living in a homeless-making society, and I need your help and cooperation to form an organization that is going to get the ball rolling on abolishing a homeless-making system. It is very doable. It is very possible. If you know anything about pyramid schemes, the way they work, we can actually build a pyramid scheme that will actually work for everybody. We will finance each other out of homelessness, and City Hall's duty is to stay out of the way. And City Hall's duty is to pump some monies into this idea so that everyone will be provided with a place to live, and so that we can change the way we value real estate. Right now, we value land, we value money over human beings. Donald, which came before me, already told you, you seem to not value human beings. You will take the water out of the parks because somebody's taking a shower there. Well, if you don't put any toilets there, where do you think we're going to do our duties? Right on your lawn. You know what I'm saying? You have to consider that we are all human beings and that we all eat and drink and we all have to shit and piss. Thank you. I got 8 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, blast off!
Thank you. Tom Walsh, followed by Norma Bravila, followed by Margarita Alacon. Tom, good to see you.
Yes, good morning, council members. Tom Walsh with the Hotel and Restaurant Workers Union, Unite Here Local 11. At a time that we all should be so excited about Game 4, the Stanley Cups, unfortunately there's a tragedy unfolding right across the street from Staples Center. The hotel that many of you will remember as the Holiday Inn a few years ago rebranded itself as the Lux Hotel, operated by the same company. And when they made that change, they made changes, big changes to all of the rooms when they renovated them. The bathrooms now have glass doors instead of curtains. Instead of 2 pillows per bed, now it's 10 pillows per room. And there are many other changes. The women, the housekeepers who clean those rooms used to be able to clean 15 rooms per shift. When they made that change, they tried and they tried and they couldn't. At best, they could clean only 12 or 13 rooms. And that's what they've been doing for 2 years. Yet recently, the hotel, in an effort to intimidate them and force them to clean work harder than what's humanly possible, they started disciplining them, suspending them, and as of last week, terminating them. So 3 have been terminated so far, and we expect more to happen. Yesterday, we went to get strike sanction from the County Federation of Labor. We're going to be on the streets there this afternoon. We ask for you to not let this tragedy happen. We ask for you to call on the owners of that hotel and say, put the women back to work and negotiate a decent, fair work standard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenos días a todos los que están aquí presentes. Mi nombre es Norma Bravila. Tenía 9 años de trabajar para...
Hold on 1 second. Whoa.
Okay. Okay.
Take your time. I don't want any slip and falls. Just, if you wait 1 moment.
I'm sorry, my English not very
no,
well.
that's fine. You don't have to apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Now we're good to go.
Okay. Mi nombre es Norma Bravila. Tengo 9 años de trabajar.
My name is Norma Bravila and I've been working for 9 years.
Estuve trabajando para Holiday Inn, que ahora es Lux City Center.
I was working for Holiday Inn and now it's the Lux City Center.
Por 9 años estuve trabajando ahí. Estando esperando mucho tiempo a que llegara un estándar muy buena en el negocio.
I was working there for 9 years waiting to have a good standard of work.
Ahora que el negocio ha sido remodelado el hotel.
Now that business increased, they remodeled the hotel.
Han implementado demasiado trabajo en los cuartos, el cual ahora no es difícil sacar la cantidad de trabajo que ellos quieren implementar.
Yeah, they implemented a lot of work at each room and now it's very difficult to be able to do as many rooms as they want.
Ahora es un hotel de lujo, pero nosotros no podemos sacar el trabajo. Ellos están explotándonos para poder sacar el trabajo.
And now it's a deluxe hotel and we cannot complete all the work they expect and they are exploiting us.
Al no poder sacar el trabajo que ellos quieren que hagamos, pues ahora nos han dado una patada, nos han echado a la calle.
Yeah, because we cannot complete all the work that they want us to do, now they just kick us out to the street.
Y diciéndonos que no servimos para sacar el trabajo porque no lo podemos hacer.
They're telling us that we are not good enough to complete the work because we cannot complete it.
Y la verdad, yo soy madre soltera, he enseñado a mis hijos a trabajar con fuerza y no a depender de nadie, sino a un trabajo que puedan ganarse el dinero dignamente.
Yeah. I am a single mother, and I told my kids that they need to work hard and that they need to work and be able to earn a fair wage.
Y pues yo les agradezco mucho el apoyo que nos están dando, nos van a dar, y espero en Dios que todo esto salga bien.
I thank you very much for the support that I hope that you will give us, and I pray to God that everything goes well.
Tengo hijos que mantener, el papá de mis hijos falleció hace 3 años y pues estoy luchando para que ellos sean unos buenos ciudadanos en este país.
I have to support 5 children. My husband, he died 3 years ago, and I am fighting for my kids to be good citizens in this country.
Les agradezco mucho su atención.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Margarita Alarcón.
Sí, buenos días. Mi nombre es Margarita Alarcón.
Good morning. My name is Margarita Alarcón.
Y vengo a hablar referente a lo que habló mi compañera Norma.
I come to speak about the same issue that my co-worker Norma spoke.
Estoy hablando sobre lo que está pasando en el hotel.
Yeah, I'm talking about
Nos acaban de
whatever
correr la semana pasada
is happening at
por
the
no acabar
hotel.
la cuota de 14 cuartos.
Yeah, they fired us. They terminated us last week because we couldn't complete the quota of 14 bedrooms.
No han implementado en los nuevos cuartos que ahora es Luxury Center y antes era Holiday Inn, nuevos amenities. Y los cuartos, aunque querramos acabar los 14, no podemos.
Yeah, now they have, because it's a deluxe hotel, they have implemented new amenities inside the room, and now, we cannot complete the 14 rooms that they want us to complete.
Y ellos creen que porque uno no puede acabarlo, no es que uno no pueda, es que uno trata, pero no los puede acabar.
They think we cannot complete the job, but it's not that we can't, it's just that we are unable to complete it.
Yo creo que nosotros vamos a trabajar, a ganarnos el dinero honradamente, o sea, a sacar el trabajo, pero si los cuartos están extremadamente sucios, uno no puede acabar.
We go to earn a fair wage, but if the rooms are extremely dirty, we cannot finish.
Y yo les pido a ustedes que si nos pueden ayudar, señores del Consejo, a hablar con ellos para que ellos puedan arreglar esta situación.
We are asking you, please, council members, to speak to them to see if they can solve this situation.
Y nos puedan devolver nuestro trabajo de regreso.
And give us back our work.
Y que también no solo pido por nosotras, las del Hotel de Lax, también otros hoteles que los estén haciendo eso a las recamareras.
I'm not just asking you for the deluxe hotel, but I'm asking for the other hotels that they're doing the same thing to the housekeepers.
Y por mis compañeras que están adentro ahorita que tienen disciplinas con warnings, que ellas están viviendo esos nervios.
And because of my co-workers that they already have warnings.
Esa espera que ellas están esperando lo mismo que nosotras nos ha pasado a ella y mi otra compañera que nos vino ahora.
Are living that very, stressful situation, and they are waiting for the same things that we already received.
Yo les pido a ustedes, por favor, que nos ayuden, por favor, que somos unas mujeres trabajadoras.
Please help us. We are very hard-working women.
Y han amenazado con correr a mis demás compañeras.
They already mentioned that they are going to fire the other co-workers.
Y a mí no se me hace justo eso porque
I don't think it's fair.
dejando nuestro esfuerzo físico de trabajo. Somos las que más trabajamos en los hoteles, las recamareras físicamente.
Housekeepers are the ones that work the hardest. It's physical work, and we work very hard.
Thank you very much and have a good day. Gracias.
Thank you.
Muy buen día.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes, followed by Mr. Alarcon. And members, I have to get through general public comment. Yes, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to clarify. I know we're limited in what we can say in response to general comment, but I wanted to clarify that one of the profound points that was made, and I'm not sure it was caught, is that one of the workers was saying that she teaches her son how to be independent, how to work hard and earn an honest money, an honest salary, an honest wage. So the emphasis here is the amount of labor they put in. They just want to be treated justly. But the fact that she teaches her sons to be independent, and now I'm assuming not to be dependent on welfare or general help, but to actually earn their money is what she is demonstrating through hard work, but unable to be given what they're exceeding and requesting of them. And the son of a janitor, I can tell you what my father went through in that role of having to meet certain conditions, living in very, very terrible work conditions, being expected to perform because they were under the threat of being fired. So I just want to make sure that was clear, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon, and then Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Alarcon. You're off the queue. Okay, Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity just to respond. Mr. Koretz and I were part of a demonstration not too long ago about the Bel Air Hotel, and I'm sorry to hear what we're hearing here right now, and I know Mr. Koretz feels the same way, and we look forward to working with the workers about how this can be resolved in an amicable way for the workers' benefits. This is outrageous what we're hearing this morning.
Thank you. Mr. Koretz. No, wait, no. Go to your desk. We're not going to do that anymore. When we speak, we're going to be at our seats so that we're going to make it easy for Channel 35. Mr. Koretz at his desk.
Now, I have to say, a while back, we had some protests at this hotel, and I had a meeting with the general manager of the hotel and the national president of the union, and they promised us that they would deal with these issues in good faith. They would talk to the union. They absolutely
I'm sorry, this isn't on the agenda.
Mr. Koretz, you know, during general public comment, we need to be careful when we respond, and I'm sure that's the warning that our city attorney is trying to get to you. So maybe
I will
if you
just
could
say
make this
I agree with the comments by Mr. Reyes and Mr. Rosendahl, and I hope this council will take this issue on in the future.
Okay. Ruth Sarnoff. Ruth, please come forward.
I came here this morning to speak in favor of item 5, and I understand it was passed before public comment this morning. Is it possible I could make some comments about it at this moment? Yes?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I want to thank you for moving ahead with the money to hire a temporary housing and mortgage security specialist in the city attorney's office. I want to also urge your support for the Homeowners Bill of Rights in the state legislature. It's a series of bills.
Now, Ms. Sarnoff,
yes.
I don't mean to be the hard guy here, but you cannot, at general public comment, you cannot speak on an item. But if I gave you permission, I did it wrongly. So I will.
Okay, it was just not expected.
I will allow
that
you to complete your statement, and I just won't ever do that again.
Okay, thank you. I think it would be very helpful. I know the public council that works with Occupy Fights Foreclosures that's working in one of the cases says that it will be very important to have the right of both the municipalities and also homeowners to have the right to sue banks around the foreclosure questions. I think it's pretty well known there's a lot of fraudulent behavior taking place right now, and it's very hard to track it. There's a lot of what it's our name for it, maybe not yours, but it's called dual tracking. And dual tracking basically means that foreclosure is started and evictions are taking place while people think they're still in home modification. I would also urge that you perhaps have either a resolution or letters to Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if we could go to the Valley for Wayne Spindler. Mr. Koterski. He is not there. Okay, let's move to, there he is. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. And we have election results from last night. And $1.4 million later, our city attorney, Carmen Tutanich, finished third. And
okay, let's keep it down.
An amazing result. And the big thing about it is that it's an LA County-wide election, 78 cities, including Los Angeles City, and the unincorporated areas with a very low voter turnout decided that out of several not relatively well-known people, that the top two, Miss Lacey, endorsed by Mr. Cooley, our DA, and Alan Jackson, who, by the way, is being managed by Carmen Tutanich's former campaign manager, incidentally. And those two are going to face a runoff in the November. Now that brings us to an issue. What are we going to do right now with Carmen Tutanich? His term expires next July 2013. And is he going to run again for the city attorney or what? I would say, based on the results of last night's election and the visceral attack on the media, that maybe it would be in the best interest if he'd step down as city attorney and let somebody else take over.
Let's keep it down. Let's keep it down.
Okay. Thank you. Now, also, we'd like to congratulate the election of Tony Cardenas, who is going to be a United States Congressman. The bad news, however, is that he has an unexpired term in the 6th seat, and that will have to result in a special election to fill that seat. That's going to cost about $3 million. I would say this: why couldn't he just wait, finish the term, let a new person be elected?
Thank you. Thank you. Your time has expired. Okay, that ends general public comment. And I already had that card because he spoke in the Valley. So all of the people who requested to speak have spoken. At this point, let's move to our Chair of Budget and Finance and ask him what he would like to do with items 16 through 19. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Items 16 through 18 are traffic accident cases, settlement proposals and traffic accident cases. Number 16 is a $1.8 million settlement. Number 17, $150,000. Number 18, 1.1. These are 1.1 million. These are straightforward cases, and unless members have questions, we can dispose of them in open session. Item 19 is a trip and fall on a Recreation and Parks basketball court. It's also a settlement in the amount of $500,000. And again, unless members have questions, Budget and Finance approved settlement of all of these matters, and we can do so again in open session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. City Attorney, I'd like to lump all of these items together, if that is appropriate. Okay, there are no speakers on the queue. So on items, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, I should read the recommendations for each before voting.
Then go right ahead.
Item 16, in the case entitled Asteria Tan Lobitana versus City of Los Angeles, there's a recommendation to expend $1.8 million in settlement. In item 17, in the case entitled Juan Rodriguez versus City of Los Angeles, there's a recommendation to expend $150,000 in settlement. Item 18, in the case entitled Lawrence Irvin versus City of Los Angeles, there's a recommendation to expend $1.1 million in settlement. And item 19, in the case entitled Peter McKenna versus City of Los Angeles, there's a recommendation to expend $500,000 in settlement.
Thank you. Okay, members, on these items, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, we'll now, Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I might also ask that those matters, as well as matter number 3, be sent forthwith.
Without objection. Okay, now we're going to move to item 1. There are cards on item 1.
Okay. Citizen Advisory, open up the public hearing. So our first speaker will have Donald A. Kronos, and then Ryan Reich, I believe. Come on up. If I call your name, can you please come to the microphone? And Benjamin, if you three can please come up to the microphone, we appreciate that. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, I'm Donald Kronos. So many things that need to be said about this, and 2 minutes is not by any means enough time, but I'm going to do my best. What's that? Bring it up a little? Sure. Thank you. Okay. First off, the wording on this item, specifically mentioning tents, I don't know how exactly to put this, but I think everybody knows that's involved in this that the tent is Occupy's emblem, that it has been used as a way of showing people we're here, that this is the people speaking up and saying things are wrong and we'd like them to get better. And this item is specifically saying tents are not going to be allowed in parks. Now, we have had tents in the city park. Nobody camping in them. They're not being used for camping. They're there as signs. They have words on them. They're not being used as a tent at all. The wording of this is a specific attack against the people. Now, as far as the sleeping bags and things like that were mentioned in something I saw in this, and I don't know if it got on the final one or not, I would also like to mention the fact that the whole idea above and beyond, this is a separate issue from what they're trying to do to squelch the people from being able to say, hey, things are wrong. There's also the issue of the fact that not everybody who's sleeping outside at night is doing it for recreation. There are people living in the city who do not have anywhere but outside to sleep. Quite a few of them. And we really need to stop hiding that fact. We got to stop brushing them away in the morning and saying, hey, they're not here. Don't anybody, acknowledge the fact that there are people that have to live outside because things are that bad for them. It's time we start letting them gather, letting them stay somewhere where they can be seen and where the issue can be dealt with. Please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Our next speaker. Please give us your name.
Ryan Rice. First of all, I have zero respect for this kangaroo council. It's sad to see all these students visit, and I'm happy that they have a chance to see how politics really works here. I'm speaking today on the illegal attempt to further regulate the public squares and criminalize the homeless in this city. How many people here have heard of Facebook? Could I get a show of fists? If you just bought stock on their IPO, congratulations on the recent plunge. The stock market is a fiction. Anyway, the Central City Association has about 500 likes on their Facebook fan page. Occupy Los Angeles has 51,736. I have a 99% on my jacket, and we always talk about the 99 versus the 1%. The ratio of 50,000 to 500 is literally 99 to 1. I can't make this rubbish up. Are you getting it yet? So who is the Central City Association? In their own words, they celebrate lobbying on behalf of Boeing, it's the military-industrial complex, Chevron, big oil, Verizon, whose workers are striking, JP Morgan Chase, that just lost billions, U.S. Bank, that was bailed out and continued to foreclose on people in Los Angeles, and Walmart, who bribes officials, also AT&T, who assisted in government illegal wiretapping. The CCA represents them, and they own you. This criminal institution's head is this, quote, 6th most powerful person in L.A. They boast that they write legislation, influence local politics, that's all of you, and advocate for the rich. The Central City Association, the people behind item number 1, are the localized manifestation of Wall Street and a microcosm of everything wrong with policy, the 1%, and putting profits over people. And you are their lapdogs and servants because of money.
Let's keep order in the chamber,
Occupiers
please.
are laying siege to their offices at 626 Wilshire every single day. We're not leaving until this corporation,
Thank you, sir.
this lobby for
Thank
the
you very
1%.
much. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Benjamin. Our next speaker. We have Gev Dalgan, Jessica Ray, and Alex Berkman III. So please come on up. I believe it's Govdogon. Jessica Ray and Alex Berkham III. The floor is yours, sir.
The homeless in this city have been marginalized and pushed.
Can you give us your name, please?
Oh, Benjamin. My name is Benjamin. The homeless in this city have been marginalized and pushed into the corner of downtown. And the city has created an organized gang called the Central City Association to solve this homeless problem. These individuals are left with no resources. The Municipal Code 63.44 is another one of the many steps to criminalizing homelessness. Giant corporations poison our food, water, and air. Banks take our homes. Jobs and resources get cut. And then when a person's homeless, they can't even go to the park to sleep. What's next?
Next speaker, please. Give us your name.
My name is Jessica. Okay, so I want you to know that the merger of corporation and state is fascism. And that locally, when a lobbying organization like CCA takes money to influence policy and then privatizes public space and patrols it with private security, that is fascism. I want to talk about homelessness and how the homeless are really the severely unemployed. And society should be judged on how it treats the underserved and underprivileged and the disenfranchised. And by that degree, you have failed. You are guilty. The CCA and the government and the city government are so concerned with aesthetic that they are criminalizing people, harassing them, brutalizing them, putting them in jails, which is a place designed to demoralize you further. I've been there 3 times since I started speaking out against this. I've been tear gassed in Oakland. I've seen a tank in Stockton. I am surveilled and tracked by the government for speaking out. And I want to tell you, the political is not criminal. This ordinance is specifically designed to take us out of public space. What public space? There is no public space left. You talk about our right to peacefully protest, yet there is no place to assemble. The fundamental contradiction here is leading to the criminalization of protesting everywhere. You tell us to rally, but you don't come to our rallies. You don't poll us to see what our concerns are. And instead you have lunch with lobbyists. You represent them. That's fascism. I am not disappointed in your actions or your inaction or your ignorance. To be disappointed would imply that I expect otherwise. And in this political climate, I think it's fair to say your methods and ignorance are right in line with the national government and the Department of Homeland Security. This is part of a larger strategy, and you are all complicit.
Thank you. Our next speaker. Give us your name, please. Next speaker.
Hi. Hi, kids. First off, I'd like to say that...
Can you give us your name, please?
Oh, my name is Alexander Berkman III. I've read a book. I've written a book. You should read it. I just want to say that the first thing, upon coming in this building, I experienced a lot of bad energy. I was called an asshole by someone just for standing around. And then I come in here and I see someone from the Los Angeles public speaking here, and I see someone behind your little table here taking a picture of him, finding him very amusing. I don't find that amusing. I think you are servants of the people, and you should be bowing before us instead of mocking us. So that said, I just want to point out, with 1 minute left, that today is D-Day. I believe it's the 68th anniversary of D-Day, the day that our soldiers marched onto the shores of France against Nazis, real Nazis, and faced certain death, fighting for something that they believed in, which was free speech. Or that's what they were told. And what's happening today is not free speech at all. What's happening today is a limitation on freedom of assembly and freedom to organize and freedom to just be, just freedom to exist. So I want you guys to ask yourselves what you guys are doing. What's the whole thrust? What's the whole point of what you guys are doing? Where do you envision us in 5 years? Where do you envision this society in 10 years? Where do you see these people that you're kicking out of wherever and kicking them to wherever? Where do you think they're going to go? Right to your house. They're going to go to your house, and then you're going to react. And then there's going to be revolution.
Thank you very much. Next is Jen Dogon. This is Jen, D-O-G-O-N, I believe. Carol. Is Carol here? Jessica. And Free the People. If I call your name, please come on up. Jen Dogon. Carol, Jessica, Free the People. Anyone here with those names, please come up. You fill out cards. Please give us your name.
Free the People, that's me. First, I want to say that if anyone has a doubt of the failure of this so-called representative democracy, just look around at all these representatives not listening. A lesson: when the industrial and business aristocracy are the ones who influence the political process to put politicians in power and create legislation that exclusively benefits these businesses, creating a mutually beneficial industry-government power elite, that's fascism. When obsession with security runs rampant within our communities, when the government uses fear-mongering as a tool to disregard our humanity and scapegoat undesirables, that's fascism. When the people are given weapons, when the police are given weapons of violence to enforce the status quo, to harass and terrorize the houseless, people of color, members of the trans community, and protesters, and are celebrated for this violence they inflict on us, that's fascism. When the Central City Association, self-proclaimed advocates of the business community, works hand in hand with corporations, LA City Council, the City Board of Supervisors, and the state legislature, using corporate money to pass legislation that benefits only them, hires private security to harass and bully our houseless community, displacing them and pushing them farther away from the streets of downtown, when they create arbitrary laws making it possible for LAPD to protect their interests and the businesses that they represent, criminalizing homelessness, including motions to limit park hours and ban tents in LA, what does that sound like to you? Fascism! In 2006, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals suspended an attempt to ban camping within the city of LA under the grounds that the number of beds for houseless community was inadequate. 6 years later, I think we can safely say that the number of beds for them is still inadequate. In fact, I think we can safely say that at the rate at which more and more people are pushed into Skid Row by thugs like the Business Improvement District Safety and LAPD, there will never be, because we as a society can't seem to wrap our heads around providing basic human needs to the people over slimy, corrupt businesses and their lobbying groups.
Thank you very much. We have Caro, K-A-R-O. Are you here? Last call, K-A-R-O, Caro. Then Jessica. Jessica, you already spoke?
General
Okay.
Dogon, Skid Row resident and organizer.
K-A-R-O. Okay, we have next Armagnac Narjanian. Your name, sir?
General Dogon.
Okay, please.
All right. The time has come for this council to stop turning its back on the poor and the homeless. It ain't no secret why all of a sudden you want to implement some new park rules just before you open City Hall Park. It's nothing more than an attempt to stop the occupiers from expressing their constitutional right to assemble. You have built billion-dollar playgrounds for the 1% right here downtown, like Staples Center, LA Live, Disney, and now you're building Farmers Field and Grand Avenue. When are you going to do something for the 95%? Open up City Hall Park with no restrictions. Put up 24-hour bathrooms. give homeless folks cleaning supplies, build more affordable housing, end SCI policing and LAPD's racist and oppressive attacks on the poor and the oppressed, and remove all the police from the parks right now. And you folks, the council members, need to start paying attention when people up here talking. Y'all up here on your cell phones, your computers, spinning all around in your chair. That's why we got problems right now, because I ain't doing no listening.
Thank you. Armand Agnarjanian. And then Dollhouse Dude.
Good morning, respectful city council members. Good morning, fellow Angelinos. As a liberal democrat human rights advocate, I ask you to pass this resolution 1, because this resolution 1 contributes to establishing, hygiene and sanitary norms within the city of Los Angeles and prevents, illegal camping, on the streets of Los Angeles. Well, actually, number of people, speakers here, they actually consider that to be fascism to enforce that sanitary norms in the city of Los Angeles. But I believe that the majority of the city dwellers, majority of Angelinos, will definitely side with you, city council members, if you pass this resolution 1. And I believe that actually very important to stop that influx of that homeless people, those mentally ill people who just camp their tents, on the sidewalks of the city of Los Angeles, making it a total nightmare, for the rest of the residents. They breed some germs and stuff like that, and they do dope in those camp and tents, and it's a very useful resolution to stop all those tents and camps, have them dismantled and removed from all the streets and sidewalks and freeway ramps, of the city of Los Angeles. We made the city of Los Angeles look like a real, future picture from nightmarish skid rows. And actually, and also whenever I walk down that Spring Street, Spring Street, intersection of Spring Street and Cesar Chavez Avenue, there is a number of those shopping carts which should be removed, and when I report them to 311 service, we never remove them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Dollhouse Dude. Then we'll have Daniel Garcia.
Yes, you have a case here where the weakest law, which is city law, is trying to override federal law. The right to assemble is in the First Amendment. You keep going against the Constitution and you're going to get a revolution. Don't you get that through your heads? Quit voting yes on every item that the people do not want. I have seen you consistently go against the people. The people pay your damn salaries. And I mean damn salaries because you keep increasing them according to the way you want. You're
disrupting the council with the language. Please be respectful to the chamber.
Is that a bad word?
Please be respectful to the chamber.
I respect you. I do respect you, but you do not respect the people back. You keep batting against the people in all kinds of ways. You send these people to tell me you cannot wear a hat in this chamber because your hat is too disruptive. See, the issues are bigger than a little bit of wear, clothing. You all look like monkeys to me, dressed in silk. That's what you look like to me. You're trying to all follow one another like this. Look. Let's follow one another until you actually have a revolution in your hand. You don't need that. We need a change in the way we think about real estate and money. The people that have the money are not the ones to rule the world. The Queen's Jubilee it made me puke. The royals are the ones that instituted all this BS that we're following. And everybody's cheering the Queen. Come on.
Sir. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Daniel Garcia, Nestor Lemos, and Wayne Katursky. If I call your name, please come to the microphone. Daniel Garcia, are you here? Nestor Lemos and Wayne Katursky.
Hi, City
Give
Council.
us your name, please.
Nestor Lemus.
Okay.
I just want to speak against the motion against the item 1 just because Los Angeles, with the lack of access to parks and what have you, I don't think it's best judgment for the City Council to do such a thing. Regardless of politics or what have you, it's a public space and it should be open. I've been to Chicago, I've been to New York, and been to Boston. They don't have such strict laws, and I think LA should be following or be one of the first pioneers in such legislation. I personally have volunteered with a lot of community groups, and Rosendal's office, LaBonche office, Garcetti's office. I have been very helpful and very, I support your thought, but I hope in this regard you will vote against 1. And this is something I really care about, and hopefully the City Council will understand that we shouldn't be putting these kind of precedents against free access to the parks. There are other issues underlying this, but I would really hope the City Council would recognize that, especially in the city of Los Angeles, where we don't have that many parks to begin with, to close such public spaces that we have is just a crying shame. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Daniel Garcia, Wayne Katursky, and for the last time, K-A-R-O, Carol, are you here? Okay.
Council members, thank you very much for the opportunity to come here. I have 3 major issues here. One is that this is why we need affordable and accessible housing for 90%. We need it now, and we don't need it 10 years from now. So we need it now, because this is the great majority of people who are suffering, and they're not being provided their help. Now, second issue is the tent. The tent by itself represents a symbol which is like a cross, like anything that is style is a symbol. Okay, anything symbolic is protected by the Constitution of the United States. The Fifth Amendment prohibits any government to acquire any sort of freedom of speech, including symbol. So the tent is a symbol. It's a symbol of the 99%. You cannot take it away. You cannot take it away because it's that simple. Okay? So please do not take the 98% symbol in public housing. Now, for the issue is that what happened is the earthquake happened today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's go to Van Nuys. I believe we have Wayne Katursky.
And we notice on item 1, the city administrator and the chief legislative offices have not completed a fiscal impact statement of this item. Community impact statement was not submitted either. So with 60,000 city employees and billions of dollars being spent on their salaries, how come they can't take the time to go online, look up what I looked up last night in 5 minutes, and find out a federal judge told you, the city of Los Angeles, that you can't take the belongings of the homeless people and that they have rights? Now, item number 1 is going to amend the LA Municipal Code to prevent tents in parks. Well, I've never heard of a park before where you can't take a tent into a park, because if somebody walks into a park with a tent folded on his back, he's violating the ordinance. So somebody will go into federal court and they'll strike this down as an overbroad statute. They'll enjoin it, and then you'll have all the people back again camping in front of City Hall, just like you did before, and you'll be right back where you started. You have these activists here. You can negotiate, work with them now. Instead, you're going to close the door on any negotiations, and you're going to do what King George III did in the 1700s, and you're going to tell these people, you are here, but you have no rights to anything. We are going to kick you out. We're going to lock up all the parks. And in the end, you're going to have eggs on your faces. So vote no on this item and go back and do the reports. Thank you.
Okay. Our last speaker, K-A-R-O. Okay.
Did you say Caro?
Caro? K-A-R-O. I've said it
K-A-R-O.
3 or 4 times already.
Yes. So I actually named myself Caro because my actual friend Caro is over at Pershing Square right now. They're kicking her off of Pershing Square, you know, like they're being harassed by LAPD right now. So I just want to make it clear that, like, this resolution, it obviously isn't going to change anything. You are actually going to continue doing what you have been doing for a very long time, which is harassing people and making sure there's no homeless in downtown and making sure the homeless don't feel welcome here and making sure that no one can assemble in public space. This is already what you do anyway. You're just codifying it into law so that you can cover your asses. But actually, it's not going to work either because, like the homie said, like it violates our First Amendment to freely assemble in the park. Like, this stuff is going to get immediately tossed out in court, and everyone is just going to be back occupying in front of the City Hall anyway. So, you know, I think this is very obviously a show of force by the City Council, and it's a way to intimidate people and tell them what to do. And guess what? Like, you can't tell us what to do. People still do all of the things that you tell them not to do all the time. Like, I don't understand why you feel like you have some sort of like false authority or something where you can like govern these people and like tell these people what to do, and then send roving bands of like people with guns and black uniforms to like harass these homeless people and kidnap them and throw them in jail for whoever knows how long, and then completely debilitate them in court and oppress them and make them feel like they don't have a voice. But the fact of the matter is, they do have a voice. They do have a voice. They do have a voice when they stand up. They have a voice when they band together with the members of their community, and they have a voice when they participate in direct actions that make you, the people in power, see that we are the ones with the power, not you. We are the ones with the power, and if anyone ever found that out,
thank you very much,
you would
sir.
understand.
Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate you not disrupting this chamber. Thank you so much. All right, now we can begin the presentation. Mr. You want to go? Yeah.
Mr. Alarcon.
Council members, I'd like to ask the city attorney to step forward.
Shh, let's keep it down.
If the city attorney could please explain what exactly this ordinance does.
Thank you, Council Member. My name is Valerie Flores. I'm an assistant city attorney, and I'm here with AP Diaz of our office, also John Muckrey, who is general manager of Rec and Parks, and Mike Schull, also of Rec and Parks. By way of summary, I would like to note that the city has always banned camping in city parks. So this ordinance doesn't change that, but what it does do is make it clear what constitutes camping so everyone knows their rights. Now, the city has The
Look,
city,
hey. You want to hear what goes on? Be respectful to them. We let you speak. Let them speak.
from an enforcement standpoint, having a statute be clear is very important so everyone knows what rules apply in the parks. Also, we would like to note that the city has long banned the use of tents at beaches, and the same concerns that apply at beaches apply even more at city parks because of the detrimental effect of tents on park landscaping. The current ordinance differs from the ordinance that we sent previously in our report. Again, we've attempted to clarify the definition of what it means to camp. It only applies to living in a park, and tents are not banned if they're open-sided. Umbrellas are not banned. Sunshades are not banned. This ordinance simply makes it clear that when the park closes, those sunshades, umbrellas, and open-sided tents must be packed up and removed. Similarly, persons may bring blankets, picnic blankets, bedrolls, sleeping bags into a park, provided that they don't use those items as sleeping accommodations, but rather for recreational purposes. And again, when the park closes, that those items be removed. Again, that helps maintain the landscaping. It helps keep the park open and usable and enjoyable by everyone. Now I'm going to turn the mic over to my colleague A.P. Diaz, who will summarize the ordinance.
Could I also mention the ordinance makes no reference to time?
Correct.
Correct. There are other
The original
parts.
ordinance was focused on the hours of operation.
The hours of operation are set out in Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 6344, and the hours don't change. This ordinance doesn't change park hours. They remain as before. But there are park hours established already in our city municipal code. I did want to make a couple other remarks which you just reminded me about. This ordinance will also continue to allow filming and special events to occur in parks with a permit, and will allow persons to, film and use the parks for all special events. So it doesn't change anything in that regard.
So we would like to point out for council the specific changes to the ordinance, in the ordinance and to the code that will apply if the ordinance is passed today. The first portion is the introductory passage of paragraph C of subdivision 14, already codified in the municipal code, is the hours of operations for parks and the conduct that is permissible in those parks. We noticed that in subsection C, it actually was inconsistent with A and B in that it lacked an enforcement mechanism. So the section is being amended to read that no person shall enter, remain, stay, or loiter in any of the following parks. And those are the special parks that have already been categorized in subsection C. As you know, there are several parks throughout the city that have special hours of operations based on the facilities that are there, such as Elysian Park, Hanson Dam, Stoner Park, etc. So the first portion of the ordinance just simply clarifies and makes it consistent with subsections A and B. The next portion of the ordinance, which has been the discussion today, has been the further clarification and expansion of camping, which Ms. Flores has just spoken to. Specifically, it sets out what would be the definition for camping, what would be the definition for a camping facility, and also which would clarify, again, that items that are brought in by the public to a public park during the day, such as a sleeping bag or a bedroll, that as long as they're being used for a temporary purpose and that they're removed upon the park's closing, then those would not be in violation of the ordinance. We also clarify what is a tent, and also umbrella or sunshades, so that again we remind the public that those items are permissible and can be used throughout the park by all patrons and all members of the public that choose to enter the park. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you have on that.
Okay, there's been concern that this is being done in response to the Occupy LA, and that may be a political question. I don't know, but can you tell us, does this alter in any way, shape, or form what happened with regard to Occupy LA?
As I mentioned previously, no, this ordinance is not directed at Occupy LA. The city has always banned camping in city parks. The issue we saw with the ordinance banning camping in city parks, however, was that it was perhaps not as clear as it should be, and therefore we thought that in order to effectively enforce the ordinance and make sure everyone understood their rights in a city park, that we needed to have a clarifying ordinance, and that's what this ordinance does.
Council members, as you know, I wrote the resolution for Occupy LA, and it was supported by the council, and it was as a result of that resolution that we, by special permission, essentially allowed people to stay on the park. Is there any reason why we couldn't do that again if we so choose?
Again, law enforcement discretion and policy discretion are outside the scope of, the city attorney's office presentation today on this ordinance.
So, members, we could do exactly what we did before with regard to Occupy LA as this ordinance is written, if we so chose to do so. I mean, if we thought it was in the public safety, in the interest of public safety to allow people to stay on the park, we could choose to do that. That's what we did with Occupy LA. We could do that again. This merely clarifies the definition of tent. That's the most significant change here. And it also explains that an umbrella and a sunshade are not tents. We don't want little kids not to have bouncies out there. As I mentioned, my little daughter would protest as well. It specifically does not address the issue of hours of operation. The committee asked the Department of Recreation and Parks to come back with a specific definition for civic center area, because there's a number of parks in the Civic Center area, although I don't know that we're all familiar with the specific boundaries of the Civic Center area, and also the hours of our operation that are recommended for city parks in the Civic Center area. In other words, the committee felt that it would be most appropriate if all the parks in the Civic Center area were on the same hours of operation, so that there would be no confusion for those people who want to use it. Mr. Muckrey, do you want to address that concern? And I'll press my button again after his comments. Nobody's on the queue? Okay, good. I'll keep talking.
Thank you, Council Member. Yes, we have been looking at the park and park hours throughout the city for about 2 years. We've opened a number of parks, over 20 parks in the last 36 months. We anticipate opening another 50 parks going forward. So the discussion began on park hours long before the movement that the constituents are speaking about. I have been in contact with the county. I've spoken directly with the county. We're having a Grand Avenue, the Grand Park is going to be opening up soon. They have not set their hours of operations, but I can tell you that there's no intent to allow camping in their park either. What they are doing is it looks like the Music Center is going to be controlling that park. They'd be the operational agency under control, and they have hired an event coordinator. The commitment of the county and the city is we are going to work together on that park to look at the hours. What is critical for us to understand is, as the council member just stated, we have a number of parks in the Civic Center. We're going to open up new parks in the Civic Center. They all have different hours of operation. City Hall Park is a default park, meaning that it goes to the default times in the current municipal code. So it's closed from 10:30 p.m. to 0500 the next morning. We want to look at that. We're fully aware that this park has a number of events going on throughout the year, and the council member is correct, and others, and the city attorney, we can't permit anything to go on in those parks that we want through our commission, as long as it's for park purposes. So going forward, we're going to come back to this council through our committees, and we're going to be looking at every single park and the hours of operations, because quite honestly right now it's not manageable for either the Office of Public Safety or the Los Angeles Police Department to really understand and know what the park hours are.
Finally, very quickly, the Civic Center Park is the hours of operation for Civic Center Park. First of all, we're going to open it very soon, and
Right.
the hours of operation would be.
It's going to be one of the default parks. 10:30 p.m. to 0500 the next morning will be closed. It will be closed to public use.
And that's existing policy.
That's been existing since the 20s.
And when do you expect to open the park?
We would like to open up in the next 30 days.
Okay, council members, you know, it's interesting because many of the comments that were made, this council has expressed in the form of resolutions to support many of the concerns that have been raised. We certainly share in many of those concerns, particularly with regard to the homeless. This ordinance, in essence, clarifies the issue of tents and as indicative of someone's intent to camp, and I don't think that's an unwarranted change. It does not change the hours of operation of Civic Center Park. I think that was the main controversy that occurred when the first motion was introduced. And the department will be coming back with a more explicit recommendation with regard to timing of the parks, particularly in the Civic Center area. They will be coming back through the committee system. So with that, I urge your support for 1A and reinforce that the department will come back to the Arts, Parks, and Health Committee to make recommendations with regard to timing of the parks and the definition, the specific definition of the Civic Center area.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. So, Mr. Clerk, I believe we will be voting on this item as amended, correct?
Mr. President, we'd first need a second from another member.
He's got a second from Mr. Zine.
Then, yes, sir, you are correct. We would be voting on it as amended.
Let's open the roll. Let's for
the Mr. President, may
Ms. Flores, would you clarify the amendment?
Yes, we've circulated an amended ordinance. You may have it on your desk, but it.
1A.
Yes, 1A. Okay.
Yes.
I got.
The ordinance clarifies that you can bring open-sided tents, sunshades, umbrellas, bedrolls, sleeping bags into a park if you don't use them for living accommodations, and you remove them when the park closes.
Okay, so let's again open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, next, Mr. Clerk, we move to item 21.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Garcetti?
Yes,
Mr.
thank you.
Garcetti?
We have item 21.
Okay, guys, keep it down. Help.
We actually have some.
Help them sergeants locate the exit.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Wait, Mr. Garcetti.
As folks are leaving, unfortunately, we have an item here that has to do with foreclosures in Los Angeles that I bet would be very interesting to the folks that were here, and I hope that some people have stayed around for that. It is certainly an issue that has driven people in terms of the downturn of our economy. The foreclosure crisis in Los Angeles has devastated so many families and neighborhoods throughout Los Angeles. I want to thank Ace, who is here, as well as many people in many communities who have worked with us very closely. I'm proud to have worked with you to have kept families in their homes, to make sure that we hold banks accountable and responsible for the blight that neglected properties cause in our communities. We know there's frustration out there. We heard it expressed here today, but frustration has to lead ultimately to action. Not just to rhetoric, but to actual moves that hold people accountable and make sure that we can track what is happening underneath us in our city. It was together that we enacted the nation's first eviction moratorium, and Los Angeles was one of the first cities to create a foreclosure registry program. And our program gave banks two options. One was to register the foreclosed property with our housing department. The other was for the bank to show proof that the property had been registered with the National Mortgage Electronic Registry System, known also as MERS. Both options were supposed to give LA's housing and building and safety departments access to information about properties that were in default or foreclosure. But they have not been able to easily access properties in MERS. We were told that that would be an adequate system, and simply it has not. It has been an obstacle in our efforts to prevent foreclosure and blight. The motion before us today would eliminate the MERS exemption, although this instruction to the City Attorney to draft an amendment is just the first step. I've also put in a motion to create a proactive program at Building and Safety to inspect the foreclosed properties by charging an enforcement fee. We have heard departments, and we're going to wait till next week, saying that they didn't have the resources to do this. But at the same time, we know that the fines that we put forward through a previous ordinance would have more than paid for the inspection, but we want to make that crystal clear now. We don't want anybody in any department to say we can't do this. This is the law that we passed, and we expect you, and it is my expectation that you will enforce that. So we will have a fee, an enforcement fee in addition to the existing fee at the time of registry. So this motion is modeled on a program developed in Oakland over the past 9 months, and that city has seen very good results, and LA needs those same results as well. This motion will be heard in the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee that Mr. Cardenas chairs on June 13th. But today, colleagues, I urge a yes vote on the motion before us to strengthen our ability to address LA's foreclosure crisis. I thank again our allies. SEIU has worked with us, ACE who has worked with us, and those community members who have seen a single home taken away from community members that then becomes not only a loss to that family and to that individual, but a blow to the entire community. Broken windows, overgrown grass, graffiti, gang members coming back, and the beginning of the end of years of progress we have fought too hard and too long to let go backwards. I urge your support today. Let's hold accountability to all of the owners of our properties right here and right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Ms. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to say thank you to ACE because, you always take a very practical, hands-on, direct approach to trying to convey to people why what you say is important and that they need to listen. Your foreclosure tour was extremely helpful. Now, we all talk about how we know that when some house goes into foreclosure on a block, it brings down the whole block. But there's nothing like going there and standing in the middle of it and having some fleas bite your ankles and to see graffiti inside the house and to see what it's done to the entire block. And so that's why it's so important to support this motion today. It's just a small step, but it's a good step, and it's a step with some substance because it allows us to have more tools to make lending institutions more accountable and to maintain their properties while they stand empty and possibly help them think of another way to deal with the issue of defaulting on a mortgage and perhaps trying to keep people in their homes because in the long run that's actually better and you still make money. You don't lose money on that, but that's a long road, but we're inching our way there. And I want to say thank you obviously to all of you from ACE and to the leadership and Peter and who's done a great job. The tour was one of the best exercises that you have ever done, and my only hope is if you do it again, bring some of the bankers. Okay? Yeah, no, you should. I'm sure you can. The community outreach people from all of the major lending institutions, it would be good for them to see it too.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. And I know Bonbon's excited. Thank you. But one of the concerns I have, and perhaps as part of the report back, Councilman Garcetti, is we also have this, there are many properties that are in limbo, property owners who essentially their loans have been passed on from one bank to another. As one bank shut down, loan portfolios were basically passed on to other institutions, and so the owners find themselves questioning who actually holds the note. And then when you have real estate folks who have been associated with predatory lending type practices, you have financial institutions that are abusive to the folks that don't speak English, or who are seniors who don't understand the complexity of the transaction, are left in limbo. If we could be able to get a report back as we analyze this condition, that we find out which loans are in that state. In other words, it's not clear cut. Does the bank own it or not? Perhaps you have an owner that's being pushed out who's trying to stay in. Is at the end of their wits as to who they make the payment to. Illegal practices from attorneys who say one thing but do another. There's got to be a list like that out there, because there are constituents that I'm aware of that are going through that process and no one's really listening. The bureaucracy is so big, the problem is so great, and our agencies are not able to address the volume of work that's there. So the quality of how we serve these people, I think, is crucial. So we can make that part of a friendly amendment as an additional information piece for the report, to learn who is caught in that gray area and that limbo, given that there's no clear-cut response to who holds the title. I'm offer as a friendly amendment. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Thank you. Mr. Garcetti to close.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Reyes. This exactly, we'll absolutely include that as a friendly amendment, and we want to know who owns what. And I think we've all managed, for many of our constituents, folks who come to us saying, you know, on one hand, we're told we no longer own this, and then when we check with the bank, do you own this? They say, oh no, we don't own it, because they don't want to take the responsibility, even though, for all intents and purposes, they do control it. And then with other folks, they go back and forth saying, pay, and people pay, and they say, oh no, you're foreclosed upon. And then people stop paying, but then they don't know. They say, am I foreclosed upon? And then 3 months later, they say, oh no, you're not. And then they pay, and then somebody says they're foreclosed upon, and oh, by the way, it's not the bank anymore, it's this mortgage holder that holds it. And it is such a confusing, there is a culture right now that rewards foreclosures. Just like the loans that got people in trouble, it was the brokers who sold the loans and then left town. Now it's the foreclosure folks who make money every single step of the way. The culture actually incentivizes more and more foreclosures, instead of it being something in which we should be making money or keeping people inside their homes. And so having the information of who owns what is the first place that we can go, whether it's a city attorney going after Deutsche Bank, like we were able to do when our city attorney did that, because we saw a pattern of practice with Deutsche Bank properties where they weren't keeping them up, they weren't responding, they weren't claiming that they even owned it, so we had to take civil action against them. Or whether it's a person who just is caught in that limbo, paying their payment, trying to do their best and trying to hang on. And the best thing that we can do, which isn't on the agenda today, but don't worry, Mr. City Attorney, is to make sure we hold these banks accountable for reducing the principal. It is not in their interest to see a house go off the cliff that they have to maintain, that nobody's in, and they take the loss, when they could renegotiate the principal in the first place and keep people in there and keep our community stable. But we'll get back to that in a week. Thanks.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President, and I appreciate, Mr. Garcetti, what you have said on it and your leadership on this. Look, it's very clear that the banks have to learn to work with the communities that they serve. The banks were real quick in doing all this mortgage business a few years ago, enticing people, and then they were real quick to throw them under the bus after they felt it wasn't working right. I met with our state attorney general on the weekend and had a talk with Ms. Harris, and she was totally there and appreciating what people have been going through. As far as we're concerned, the foreclosure issue has to stop, and the banks need to come to the table and work with us as best they can to support those people. When we had people here in front of us where the young lady had health issues and they were literally throwing them out. That's unconscionable. It's not about their profits. It's about the American people. So thank you, Mr. Garcetti, for this, and we're all with you on this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. There are no additional speakers in the queue, so members prepare to vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
You are the loudest little bitty thing that I have ever met. It is good to see you. I have not seen you in a while. No, No. She's the champion of loudness. Okay. Mr. Clerk, what else is before this body?
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Consider them posted and referred.
The desk is clear.
Okay, so we move to announcements. Joey B., I'm sure you have a very special announcement where it relates to today. Today at 5.
Come on, Mitch, get over here and join me on this.
5
I got my
p.m.
pin on here. All right, here we go. Tonight, as we all know, is Game 4, of the Stanley Cup Finals. It's going to be a sweep. And we wish our LA Kings hockey team and the AEG family continued success, where we hope we bring to the city of Los Angeles the Stanley Cup. And trust me, there's no doubty about it that the city of Los Angeles will be home to the Stanley Cup. So congratulations to the LA Kings. We wish you the best tonight. And to those who will be coming to the game, please keep calm and let's celebrate in a lawful way.
Mr. Garcetti, after all of these years, finally, Guy is able to get on television. The one day he wears a Kings T-shirt, that's his 15 seconds of fame.
People have seen him walk by the president's chair so many times. Now he has a face. He has a face. I was with the mayor of Newark on Monday night, my good friend, Mayor Cory Booker. I tried to lay a bet down on him to see, but he didn't even want to bet. Now, albeit the Kings were already 2 games up, so he was a smart man. But we, as much as we congratulate our New Jersey Devils for getting in it, I would say Angels always beat Devils. So in the city of Angels, the Kings will win.
All right. Before I go to the next member, Mr. Clerk, on item number 1 forthwith, Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to arrive late to council. I was at a Parks Commission meeting on a very important item while some of our Parks staff is here, including Mr. Muckery, who heads the Rec and Parks Department. I just want to thank them for all their hard and diligent work to bring this project finally to a vote, and they affirmatively, unanimously approved a skate park in my district. And we all know that there are too many of our young people without enough good things to do and good places to do it in, and so we finally got that project off the ground. It lingered way too long. But I just want to thank the staff of the commission, and also I want to take this opportunity to thank the volunteer commissioners who read all of their material, have worked very diligently throughout the years, but today they shined by making sure that they were able to get down to the bottom of what the truth and the facts are, and they made a unanimous vote to approve the project in my district. So I just want to take the opportunity to publicly thank our public servants of the city of Los Angeles, and specifically the Rec and Park staff and Mr. Muckery, who heads that fine department, and then also to our volunteer commissioners, whose time is precious and priceless. Thank you all very much.
Okay, Mr. Cardenas, we could never build enough skateboard parks. So congratulations on that, and also congratulations on a very big night for you last night. So with that said, the city clerk, I think we have a couple of items to send forth with.
Yes, sir. There have been requests to send item number 12 and item 9I and 9L forthwith, sir.
Without objection. Any more announcements? Members, in fact, could everybody in the council chambers please rise for adjourning motions? Everyone please rise. Before we adjourn, our next meeting will be Friday the 8th at 10 a.m., and it will be in the Valley, at Valley City Hall in Van Nuys. Okay, adjourning motions. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's with great sadness, I want you to know, I ask that we adjourn in honor of Oscar Duncan, who was cruelly taken from us last Monday night in Venice. Oscar was shot and killed by an unidentified gunman Monday night at the 600 block of Santa Clara Avenue in Venice. He was only 23 years old. Oscar was a wonderful and remarkable young man who will be remembered for his singing and dancing talent, his devotion to preaching, and work to keep youth on the right track. He was a breath of fresh air. Oscar grew up with a lot of negativity around him, and not only disassociated himself with it, but also encouraged others to do the same. Duncan was constantly upbeat and was the type of person who would go out of his way to cheer somebody up if they were down. Oscar attended Mark Twain Middle School before graduating from Venice High School in 2006, where he earned good grades and played on the school's football team. In his spare time, Oscar served as an inspiring young mentor at the Boys and Girls Club of Venice, and I spoke to the head of that the other day, and he was being promoted actually to another position there, where he often talked to youth about avoiding gangs and checked out on the elderly people in the neighborhood. In fact, Stan Mohammed, who was an intervention worker, was so upset when we heard about it because he was one of the real leaders in Venice. Helping to keep kids away from gangs, Oscar helped start a special audio engineering program with the Venice music producer at the Boys and Girls Club. Duncan recruited students from elementary school through high school and taught them how to run a music board and record their songs and poetry. In 2006, he was named the Venice Club's Youth of the Year, and just last May, he received the National Service to Youth Award for his 5 years of outstanding and courageous service. Oscar also spent free time as a youth pastor at the Greater Zion Church in Compton, where he had the nickname Choir Boy. He sang, he performed gospel-inspired hip-hop, and was also a talented dancer. Those closest to him, especially his girlfriend, knew that the three things he emphasized were God, music, and Venice. This truly is a terrible loss, and I want to put a number out, and I'm having a press conference tomorrow with Captain Peters, and we're going to go forward with putting a motion forward, colleagues, that I will ask for your support for a reward to get that person or persons that shot him. And right now, if anybody out there knows anything about it, please call the homicide detectives at 213-382-9470 or after business hours at 877-527-3247. A tremendous loss to all of us in the Venice community and throughout our great city. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Ms. Perry.
Thank you. I have three adjourning motions. The first is for Ray Bradbury, the writer whose expansive flights of fantasy and vividly rendered spacescapes have provided the world with one of the most enduring speculative blueprints for the future. He was 91 years old, and he died Tuesday night in Los Angeles. He was the author of more than 27 novels, story collections, most famously the Martian Chronicles, Fahrenheit 451, Dandelion Wine, and Something Wicked This Way Comes, and more than 600 short stories. Mr. Bradbury was credited with elevating the reputation of science fiction as a genre. Much of his accessibility and ultimate popularity had to do with his gift as a stylist, his ability to write lyrically and evocatively of lands and imagination away, worlds he anchored in the here and now with a sense of visual clarity and small-town familiarity. Now, I'd like to offer a quote from the man himself. "There are worse crimes than burning books. One of them is not reading them." And I think we can all join in remembering this great Angelino.
Before you go on to your next one, Ms. Perry, Mr. Garcetti wanted to comment on this one, and Mr. Koretz and Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you so much, colleagues. It was my pleasure to have Mr. Bradbury come to these chambers. And he's been here many times, but in 2010, when we declared Ray Bradbury Week here in the city of Los Angeles, Mayor Hahn, when he kicked off a program that was very popular in many cities to read a single book in many cities. The first book we did was Fahrenheit 451, and we awarded Mr. Bradbury a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that same week. He was somebody who I got to know, who had amazing ideas, whether it's about transportation for the city of LA. He would, to the end, thought monorails was the way that we could solve our public transportation problems. And even though he was called a science fiction writer, he resisted that. He said he'd only written one science fiction book ever, Fahrenheit 451. He said, I'm a fantasy writer. Fantasy imagines worlds we've never seen, things that have never happened and maybe never will. He was a native of Waukegan, Illinois, born in 1920 to Leonard Spalding Bradbury and Esther Marie Moberg. He has 4 daughters who survive him, Susan, Ramona, Bettina, and Alexandra. He said that he was first electrified about fantasy and fiction when he went to a carnival, and a Mr. Electro, who was this carnival magician, went to him with a sword and tapped it on his head and said, "Live forever." And while we have lost who he is in his material form with his passing after a long illness, I think indeed Ray Bradbury will live forever.
Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, I'm greatly saddened by this as well. Ray grew up in L.A. and went to L.A. high school, and he spent years at the Palms Rancho Park Library writing many of his short stories. He wrote Fahrenheit 451 at UCLA's Powell Library. And I had the honor of meeting him on a number of occasions, and he was my personal hero and inspired me to my intended career that never happened as a science fiction and fantasy writer. That was my intention after college. Went off in a different direction, carried by politics and government. Maybe that'll happen someday again. I went to school with his kids, including Tina Bradbury, now known as Bettina, but that was what she was called.
This is to ward off evil.
And if you read his later works, which he's not quite as well known for, his later books were all mysteries that were set in Los Angeles. And as someone who didn't drive and took rapid transit, or not so rapid transit, in Los Angeles, and walked, he knew every nook and cranny, especially in Venice. And if you read his books, it's quite remarkable. I got to meet with him after he came to the council, and it was interesting because he had a lot of trouble speaking and he had a lot of trouble hearing, and yet when he came to council, after his first few words, it was like he lost 50 years, and he gave the most articulate speech that you could believe him giving. And then I had a meeting with him a little after that in his home, and it was very difficult to understand him. It was very difficult for him to hear. So that was a magical moment here in council where he shed 40 or 50 years. It was quite amazing. He also had an amazing gift, the way he wrote. Basically, he said he dreamed what he was going to write every night. He would get up in the morning and write what he had dreamed the day before and then edit it in the afternoon and evening. His process was absolutely magical, as was everything that he wrote. And I actually was trying to name the Palms Rancho Park Library where he did much of his writing after him. Sadly, I got resistance from our bureaucracy, and if we name it, it now will be named in his memory. But I think we absolutely should do that.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, as Mr. Koretz mentioned, he would talk about Venice. I got to know him over the years. First, I was fortunate with my television show to get to know him in a different world than being an elected official. And he was an inspiration to everybody, the Venetians and all of us on the West Side, including the Palms part that was part of our district too. Just loved this man. He was a magic man. He was an incredible, inspiring speaker, but he was also a community person who put himself out with community people. He got engaged with people. People laughed, they loved, they were excited. He actually was a catalyst stimulating a lot of things that happened in other people's minds and their creativity, and moved with it. And you're right, when he spoke here that day, it's just as as if he is who he is, he was able to be very articulate, and it was fun to hang with him a little bit there, as we all did. But I can tell you on behalf of my constituents who for many years got to know him, we all wish that he will rest in peace, and we thank him for what he contributed to all of us in this city and in this country and in this world. May he rest in peace.
Okay, Mr. Kretz?
Just one more.
You're going to do it anyway, so go right ahead.
Okay. Even in the condition he was in his later years, he continued writing right up to the end. And when he couldn't see and couldn't hear, and really it was difficult for him, he called his daughter in Arizona every day and dictated up until the last day. He had a book that just came out a couple months ago. Absolutely brilliant till the end, and just an amazing fellow.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you for this moment, Council President. Now, when I was at UCLA as an English major, we had opportunity to run into different groups of students to visit these lectures. His lecture was always packed. But I remember a time where he finished his lecture and he went outside on the lawn by Royce Hall and had more discussion with the students. And what was great about that is that those of us who were stuck in these big rooms in these auditoriums actually got to engage him on a one-on-one. And he took that extra time. And he did at least 2 or 3 different occasions throughout my years there. So I'm very honored to be able to celebrate his life in this role. But as my colleague said, he did reach out and he did make that one-on-one contact. And for that, I'm very appreciative and thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, all members, and now we go return to Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would also like to adjourn in memory of Vernon Rux, a longtime resident of the 9th Council District. He was born in Brookhaven, Mississippi, and for a brief time served his country in the Army during the Korean War. He received the Bronze Star Medal for bravery at the Battle of Heartbreak Ridge, and in 1952 received an honorable discharge. He then relocated to Los Angeles, and in 1963 married the love of his life, Carrie Phillips, whom he was happily married to for 38 years. His love of community extended to donating books to the local library and helping them with book drives, and many, many, many other projects that he always took under his wing and spent his own money to be able to support them. He was a dedicated and steadfast supporter of the 9th Council District, long contributing to the improvement, stability, and the betterment of the Vermont Square community. He leaves behind an extensive network of friends and relatives to cherish his memory. His daughter, Renda Marie Rux, his brothers Roy, Jenny, and Dee, sisters Reevie, Evelyn, and Mildred, and a host of nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and extended family, and he will be sincerely missed. I would also like to adjourn in memory of Ella Lyles, beloved member of the church community. In 1943, Ella and her family moved to Los Angeles to join Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church under the late founding pastor, Reverend V.W. Wade. She spent her years as a secretary for Pilgrim Sunday School program and was later elected as president of the Providence Baptist Union. She loved children and was a godmother to many. Happily married to her husband, John, she earlier this year celebrated her 75th wedding anniversary. She leaves behind her husband, John, her daughter, Dorleen, and a host of nieces, nephews, cousins, and other extended relatives, along with an entire network of friends. And she, too, will be sincerely missed.
Members, other adjourning motions? Mr. Parks?
Thank you. I'd ask to be adjourned in memory of Franklin Donovan Murphy, born November 1980, passed away June 2nd, 2012. He was blessed with deep dimples in each cheek and earning the nickname Dimples. Grew up in Sylmar. As a young child, he attended Mary Clay Nursery School in Los Angeles, Westwood Elementary School in Westwood, and Arville Wendell Holmes Junior High in Northridge. He also attended Sylmar High School, where he enjoyed participating in many school activities, including the Glee Club, and taking additional college preparatory courses on the weekend. But his passion was basketball, and he met many of his friends who became like brothers to him. He graduated in 1999. After high school, Donovan attended Cal State University at Northridge. He later transferred to the College of the Canyons, where he continued his education. While attending school, he started working as a special education assistant at Sepulveda Middle School in North Hills, California. He was dearly loved by all who came in contact with him, especially the students and staff. His sense of humor brightened everyone's day. As a child, he loved sports and participated in the Golden Bear football and track and field programs. As he grew older, he fell in love with basketball and enjoyed playing in several intramural leagues and pickup games at local parks. His other passion was traveling. He loved to travel to visit different places, including Cancun, Hawaii, Caribbean, the Bahamas, and Florida. While on vacation, he could be seen jet skiing, riding an ATV or dirt bikes, or swimming with the dolphins. Donovan's favorite place in the world was Las Vegas, where he could visit his brother. Donovan's hobby was collecting swords, in which he had a very extensive and impressive collection. Donovan attended Greater Community Missionary Baptist Church under Reverend T.G. Pledger, who was the pastor, where he came to know God at an early age. He was very active in the church and participated in Christmas and Easter programs and modeled in the church fashion show. Despite his health challenges, which he faced with uncanny determination and strong constitution, he maintained a positive attitude and a sense of humor. He never complained and could often be found joking with the nurses and cheering up the other dialysis patients. Donovan is survived by his mother, Anita Washington Murphy, his father, Frank Murphy, and three brothers, Brian, Aaron, and Myron, and a host of other family members. His funeral service is scheduled for Saturday, June the 9th, 11 a.m. at Greater Community Baptist Church, located 11066 Norris Avenue, Pacoima. Viewing will be held Friday, June the 8th, 6 to 7:30 at the Pierce Brothers Mortuary, located at 10621 Victory Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today marks the 44th anniversary of the tragic death of Robert F. Kennedy. I came across an op-ed piece over the weekend written by Amanda Siskin, who is regional director of the Anti-Defamation League in Los Angeles, and in it was a great quote that really spoke to my heart of what Robert F. Kennedy said. This quote really allowed me to be that police officer, community advocate, father, and husband, and what he said. I'll read shortly, but we should continue to do our part to speak out against anti-Semitism, the racism, homophobia, and bigotry of any kind. And here's what he said. What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another. Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Many of you know that I worked for Robert Kennedy. I got to know Robert Kennedy quite well. I went through that pantry a half an hour before he did, and have stayed dedicated to what he stood for when I was a young man, supporting him. In fact, I have a poster that he signed that has traveled with me the last 43 years wherever I've been. I also want to acknowledge the fact that when he got shot, Paul Schrade got shot too, a labor leader, and Bobby's last words were, "How was Paul?" Paul spent the rest of his life and continues to be a vigorous member of the Kennedy clan, and we were able, as a group of Kennedy folks, to clearly take that Ambassador Hotel down and turn it into the complex of schools, which is in memory of Bobby Kennedy, who knew how to bring people together, African Americans, Latinos, Anglos, and Asians, and had built a coalition that if he had become our president, we would see a different day than we're seeing right now. And may he obviously rest in peace, and may his legacy and what he stood for continue in our hearts for the rest of our lives as well.
Thank you. More adjournings? Okay, members, this council meeting is adjourned.